Hello and welcome back to another episode of Better Than We Found It. Thank you for joining. On today's show, my guest is a leader who proves that the fastest way to charge the vehicles for the future is about rethinking the fundamental architecture of the grid. Anurag Kamal is the CEO and co-founder of ElectricFish. A mechanical engineer by training, Anurag spent the early part of his career working on heavy-duty powertrains in India before moving to the US and focusing his research on lithium-ion batteries. At ElectricFish, he is solving the huge charging infrastructure bottleneck by building distributed energy storage systems with ultra-fast EV charging capability, which can be deployed almost anywhere. Today, we explore his fascinating career across a range of different corporate cultures, the reality of building a company with co-founders that you met at a hackathon, and why true leadership does sometimes require a technical engineer to step out of the leads and to guide a company to the future. So let's dive right in. So AK, welcome to Better Than We Found It.
Josh, I'm excited to be here.
Looking forward to the conversation. I'm sure it's going to be a good one. So definitely looking forward to getting into it with you. For the audience and those who may not know who you are in your organization, would you mind just giving a quick overview? I did just do an intro, but I'm sure I didn't do it justice. So it'd be good to hear it from your side.
For sure. So I'm Anurag Kamal, or AK. I'm one of the co-founders of ElectricFish. It's a 12-people team here in San Carlos with a small office in Detroit. We are solving the grid bottleneck of deploying very fast charging infrastructure and other renewable energy assets by using locally deployed batteries. We've been live in many US cities so far and taking our first steps towards manufacturing, commercialization, building our next 100 units in the next year.
Brilliant. Well, I'm looking forward to getting into it and hearing more about the present day. But let's rewind a little bit back and hear a bit about your founder's journey and your story. I think one of the things that was of interest to me when we first spoke was that whilst you were accepted into some European schools, it was the dream of pursuing things in the US that meant that you have landed stateside. What was it that drew you to the US as a country, and why do you think that was the place of choice for you to continue your studies?
I was looking to go for my master's for pursuing batteries. We're gonna talk more about that. Did apply for some European colleges and got admits both in the US as well as in the EU. I would say the choice for the United States came to basically the place where I wanted to be in, which was generally the state of Michigan and specifically the city of Detroit. There's so much passion which I had for the city of Detroit, specifically being an automotive guy. I was interested in cars and propulsion, and this passion is almost like romantic, with the history of the city, how the manufacturing of mobility at scale was born here. That is why I really wanted to be here. And when I got admitted in Michigan Tech, I chose to be there. And then the ties with the city are still super strong. So I would say it was very local in terms of choice on why I wanted to be in the United States. And now I see a lot of things now. Valley itself is this American dream, entrepreneurship and the access to capital. So I think in hindsight, it sounds like a good decision. But yeah, Detroit specifically and the state of Michigan is what drew me to this country.
And you said the passion for automotive and that being something that has always been of interest to you. So before making that decision, tell us about your sort of your early years and your early career in back home and what you did there.
Yeah, so I would say that generally to have the most impact is kind of the driver which I always look for. And when I was working in automotive systems, the engine was always known to be the heart of the automobile. Um, and for electric vehicles, the battery was basically the heart. So in the early days of my college, in the first year, I was reading about IC engines, and I really used to geek out on basically the combustion, how the fuel is ignited. You compress it, and what's the right time to ignite it? Otherwise, there'll be knocking or some sounds in the engine. How do you get the most efficiency? And so much research went into that for almost 100 years of human civilization. So very, very cool stuff to geek out on. So that was kind of my motivation that time, like propulsion systems, so engines, a little bit transmission as well. And that's what I did in my early days at Eicher Motors, the Volvo subsidiary in India. Um, but when they started to build their first electric truck, and I could work with the different teams there, the third party companies who we were working with, I found out the batteries were the most fascinating piece, which were treated as a black box. You didn't know what was going on, and I knew that this will be something which there'll be a lot of research which is going to happen. So that is why when I came for my master's, I pursued batteries as kind of my core thesis. Um, so yeah, organically, I would say heart of the EV is the battery, and that's what I pursued to learn. The
Sure.
best tech out there is lithium-ion batteries, and that's on which I wrote my thesis on.
I understand. So, and how did that compare to your peers at the time back then when the electrification of the vehicle started and you were being exposed to it? Were you like-minded with others in your interest in that, or was it seen as something that was sort of like fancy and interesting, but actually we're going to carry on doing this great stuff over here? Like, how did that contrast and compare to others around you?
Yeah, that reminds me of a very specific incident at a bus stop when we were all waiting for a shuttle to go to Walmart, actually. And um, um, there was a class called Hybrid Electric Vehicle course. It was Introduction to Hybrid Electric Vehicles, and the next course was graduate school course. And my colleague from the class was there, and we were just like discussing, and I just kept hammering on that like, why really are we doing hybrid vehicles? They don't make sense. Why do we have to do engines? It just like it's just move over already. And he was just so adamant on no engines are going to be very relevant, and everybody's just producing engines like IC cars. There's no openings at the likes of GM and Ford for any electric propulsion yet. And this is year 2016, 2017. It's not too long ago,
Mm.
And if you look at where we are at right now, automakers still do not agree fully on what is the path forward. Some went all in on BEVs, battery electric vehicles, that is full EVs. Um, and there's some who still think that the hybrids are the way to go for the next 5 years. So um, I would say um, I just chose that I'm just gonna do batteries, and like motors are already super efficient. There's not crazy amounts of work or research which will go in there. Uh, but people were definitely still thinking that we do need to, like, even new fresh graduates were spending time and working about engines because they thought that that is where they'll easily find a job as
Mhm.
compared to learning about something new. So that's very interesting. I, yeah, I could go on a rant here, um, but like people in the industry who have worked for 20 years in, let's say, propulsion systems like engines, transmissions, they are afraid that when the new technology comes, their job is going to go away. How they're going to move towards batteries, and the new graduates they don't know what to choose, and probably they're seeing the existing job, so they are going for all like just learning the older tech, if you will. So I don't know how the transition happens, but definitely it was what I believed in, that is going all in into like just newer technology. That was not a shared belief between all my peers, and I think that that's what makes a difference, um, in terms of like which kind of companies I can work for.
Sure. Yeah, I get that for sure. And yeah, as you say, it's not that long ago, but it's amazing how for very, I'm sure your peers are very bright minds as well, but for you it really resonated, and for others maybe not so much. The other part that I think is fascinating is with your experience of working within different cultures, not just from a company corporate culture, but also from the region in which you're based. I'm sure you've seen all ends of the spectrum from India to the US. Um, Tell me a bit about the culture back in India, and then maybe we can get onto the story of landing in roles in the US and how they contrasted and compared up to what you're trying to build now with Electric Fish.
Yeah, we talked about that during our prep call. So the difference between the culture is being stark, and I would say attributing to just geographies between India or US or um, like maybe in any other nation, China or the EU, where I have not worked, but like I hear things. I would say that um, um, it's very besides some macro trends of the geography, it highly depends on like the local parameter, which is which company do you work for and who is your direct boss. Like that is the biggest important thing, which you probably cannot optimize for looking from further away. It's very you got to make that choice when you take that job, or if you just like get a promotion or whatever. But yeah, the fun incident which there was when I was working for the Volvo subsidiary in India was when my boss really was like standing on my way when I was leaving work. He was like, "You gotta like stay. I'm not gonna let you leave today, or like not until like later." Just because like he gave me a task 5 minutes before like 5:30, and it was a very tiny job. So that's super weird for me. I did leave. And the next day when I came, nothing had changed. He behaved that was completely normal. So um, that's how it was for me. Mm, um, and then when I came to the US and I got my first job with BMW, it was this super coveted office here in the Silicon Valley, which which had very less number of people, 35 people or less, and they were here basically to enjoy the weather, and they were here because they already did well. Um, in in Berlin. So um, yeah, it was a very different culture in which people will leave offices at 3 p.m. On weekends, they will on Fridays they will always have half days, and they'll be surfing and stuff. And the team also are they scheduled stand-ups at 9 a.m. and I'd always miss it, so they moved it to 10 so that I could make it because AK comes late during that time at least. So it was very different culture, and I think there is a balance between those two cultures, in terms of
Sure.
what's the discipline and what's the discipline, and how much freedom you get for your creative juices flowing. Yeah.
Sure. And how do you think that those experience in both ends of the spectrum have helped or guided the principles of the culture that you try to or will be installing in your company now?
So I would say that um, I didn't work really long time in these companies. It was 2.5 years in India and then year and a half here. So it's not like any of these cultures was really like deep rooted in my bones or
Mm.
anything. I didn't spend a decade there. Um, but what I think it helps me most is just to uh, just put myself in that place, if um I think it helps me to be a little bit more empathetic to different kind of like ways of um um ways of like managing people, if you will, um so I would say like I definitely want creativity. I really enjoy when people are enjoying what they do. I generally always solicit feedback. How are they doing? Do they like that or not? Or I do have like, of course, like every organization, I do have check-ins and we have ratings in terms of what kind of like work are they enjoying their work as well. But at times, discipline is also required with our micromanagement. So the one thing which I really like to use is just like deadlines. The deadlines need to be communicated either by the person who's giving the job, the boss, the manager, or the person themselves. You can ask them by when they can do the job, but the deadline must be met. Simple, and they should not be prodded to make that deadline. And if they cannot make it, then they should be communicating that. But like deadlines, I think it's the one thing to do, and then just making sure that they're a part of that decision making process as well when the deadlines were set or what kind of task which we're committing to and estimating how much work it's to be done as well. So we're a very small team. It's very easy to do. um, we can just pull people in, sit in the room and ask them. As we grow, we need to be very mindful, but generally the culture is different from the top. It just spills over. So as long as we're mindful, I expect that we have that healthy balance of the creativity as well as the discipline too.
Sure, understood. So with your background and being a very technically minded individual, and I think when we first met, you introduced yourself as a mechanical engineer first. I'm always interested in that leadership journey from being somebody who is, a technical expert and known and praised and rewarded for the work they do in a kind of operational sense, through to more of a leadership profile, now being the ultimate guider of the organization. What's the hardest part that you found in stepping back from some of, and I appreciate you're still quite hands on, but some of the day to day technical work, to thinking more about being the custodian of the culture and leading the company with vision and purpose to get that right?
Yeah, I would say there are two reward functions for being an engineer and being a storyteller. That is a leader. An engineer just wants to make things work, and that's basically the incentive. They necessarily do not need to be able to communicate what they did and how they did it, because as long as the product works, that's all what matters. But whenever I go into technicalities on explaining how the product works, I generally lose my audience, especially if there's investors or even people visiting our facility, high school students. So uh, I think in leadership, what I've learned wh- which I'm striving for is that it is more important to tell a grander story on where we are at and where we are going and why it matters, as compared to the nitty gritty and bolts of how exactly we're going to make that happen. Um, I'm still learning. Mm, but yeah, that's I enjoy that as well. Basically, that's why I'm getting there. Just telling that broader story, but also knowing how we'll get there. That's that what makes it a very compelling story.
Sure. And particularly with the, from an investor perspective and as an early stage organization, I suppose that's such a critical way in which you need to communicate to fundraise in other areas. Have you found yourself ever where you've realized that maybe you have gone too far in the technical sphere, or you haven't told the story, and any kind of specific moments you can recount that you've recognized that and you had to do something about it?
I'm not sure you can always do something about it. The
Oh,
the
yeah.
vote has passed.
Yeah.
So No, but it has happened multiple times um when I've felt that we go much into like technical details. Uh, I think happens during sales calls quite often. When we've got a person who's in charge for making a purchase of, let's say, 100 of our units, that's more than 10 million deal. And this person is specifically probably an operator. They they are almost assuming that the tech works. If you're here with them, I I think the assumption is that tech works, things are fine. They're only worried about how much it's gonna cost to maintain, who will maintain it. Are you gonna be able to drive the margins slower if you're buying at scale? But then when you start pitching them, when they jumped on a call to explain, oh, these are the cool things about the tech. It can island itself, and they were like, "What is our landing again?" And so, okay, then you're like, "Okay, if the power is out, it can still work." And then it can deliver 400 kilowatts, which is filling up the car in 12 minutes. And before, we would not even say it in 12 minutes. It'd be like 400 kilowatts, which at times will make sense for them, but not always, right? Because
Yeah.
they're like, okay, 200 is what I have heard. So yeah, just at times you lose people because if you have a half-hour call with this
Perfect.
decision maker and you spend 20 minutes explaining your tech, then they did not have the time to um, um, just to assess the things which they wanted to assess, right? In terms of the cost and other
Hmm.
things. And probably you also
It's,
came across a little
yeah.
bit immature
the-
because
yeah. Oh,
it's like you are still in tech building phase, you're just like doing tech. These guys are yeah. So I wouldn't say that that happens anymore. Of course, like if the business folks are doing the talking and we are around, or like the tech team will be around if there is a specific technical question to be answered.
sure.
Um, but these are few examples. This is
Yeah.
literal examples. Just happened few times, few
Okay.
times too many.
Sure. Yeah. Understood. Um, Before we move on to hearing more about the organization, with a note not to get too technical because you're talking to me, so I'm in that audience that definitely you can't go too technical in. Um, I think one of the things that also stood out to me with your organization was the fact that you have four, as I understand it, four co-founders, um, and that's for my understanding quite a lot and not so common. So I was always interested to find out about how you came together, firstly, and secondly, what the style and approach is as to who does the different roles, and with four people, how you generally are working to some sort of consensus model, or how you decide the responsibilities up to make sure that you can still move forward at pace. Um, Tell us about how you met and then how you manage things internally.
So we met at a hackathon, which is not a very common story.
Mm.
Um,
What
I
was
was
the
talking.
was the hackathon on a particular subject, or what was it?
It was just for climate. I was talking about this idea for a long time in different circles in the Bay, where I met this dude who was now a friend, but he was organizing. He was I met him a few times at different climate like events, and then he was like, "We should just meet as well as compared to just bumping into each other." And then he was organizing this hackathon where he was like, "This focus on climate. Why don't you come and pitch your idea?" And then I did, and that is where I met two of my co-founders, Nelio and Vince, were there. So Nelio was working on his own idea of a blockchain-based coin, renewable energy coin, and then Vince had wrapped his last startup on voice AI space. Um, and uh, like we just basically met and we decided that like it was my idea which had pitched, and we decided let's do a business model on this thing over the it was a weekend long hackathon, and we won the hackathon. So these guys thought that the idea has legs, we had won it, and we got incorporated 6 months later. Um, so yeah, the start of the company and all the people which we have brought on. So for co-founders, we had Fola, and like we've got now Leo. a new person who's leading sales, but has also been given a title of a co-founder now, but active for co-founders. Um, we have like working with strangers who become like kind of friends because now we've worked together for 5 years now, and uh, m- probably longer than a lot of people work with their colleagues, you know.
Of course,
So
yeah.
um, I think the in the early days, the the foundation laid was great because like since the beginning it was clear. I had the idea. I assumed the role of the CEO. I was technical as well, so I was doing a lot of like hardware tech, but Nelly was kind of clear to be the architecture. He was doing the technical architecture, and Vince was business, you know, so some operational stuff. He was only US citizen as well, so he could do all the legal stuff which we could not. So it just became clear, and there was not really a conflict between us on who does what, and that made a really strong framework. And to build the trust, there was no stakes involved because the company was not uh, just getting started. And I basically, um, the two things which I would say is that whenever there is a conflict, the first thing is that the leader takes the blame. If some things didn't work, I just like, okay, guys, my bad. I did not do this. And generally, it's the leader's role is to keep the team together, you know? So I think the first thing is like take the blame. That kind of like helps all the time. And the second thing is that you don't make it personal, you know, when even if you're screaming at each other, which generally does not happen in us because Vince is very particular about that. Like he doesn't want to do that. But like if there is a conflict, we should not think that it's personal. Like it's you against the problem or whatever decision to be made. The moment you make it a personal thing, that is when this egos get involved. So these are the two main things which I kind of use this as kind of like a conflict resolution. Conflicts happens daily. We should not run away from them. You know, it's that's very natural. It's just think that we're trying to solve a problem together as compared to like just making personal attacks. You know, kind of a thing.
Sure. And I suppose you're privileged in the sense of being able to build this from the ground up, that you create the culture, and, how the four of you interact is without question going to be the thing that distills down to the organization more than any messages that you make. How you interact will be the foundation for how the organization interacts with each other. So I'm keen to come back to that and talk a bit more about intentionality with culture and what that looks like. But maybe to move on to your organization and exactly where you sit within the ecosystem and what you do. It'd be great to just explain again in layman's terms the organization and where it sits, and maybe for those who are unfamiliar with grid architecture, like what problem you solve and how that actually comes together.
Great. So I'll have to give that class. Uh, the electrical grid is the biggest machine which humans ever made. It works in real time. Every electron which we consume right now was created just moments ago, almost less than a second ago, at a power plant somewhere or a solar panel somewhere. Unless you're storing that, of course, in a dam or in a battery. Of course, there's more and more batteries on the grid now. But basically, because of this real time architecture of the electrical grid, uh, the new changes which are happening right now, the new power demands which we're having right now, and the new generation sources like solar and wind, that is really starting to like twist this existing architecture because the current architecture is have a massive plant where you generate a lot of energy and send it all the way across for homes and businesses to consume, to average out a little bit of like peak demand. That is where when everybody turn on their lights together or turn on the microwaves together or started cooking food, you have certain kind of like load models already built, and you're basically changing generation, which is generally natural gas or coal, based on like whatever forecasted load which there is. But now you've got these big solar panels, and suddenly the solar panels have a cloud on them and the production drops by 30%, and then you're like, you did not predict that. And then the same with wind. And now EVs come to the picture. Charging one electric vehicle is almost like 300 ohms, turning on all of their supply at one time. And you charge the car and you stop charging the car. That's crazy
Mm.
peak suddenly, which happens, right? So all of these changes of how electrical grid used to work today, it's just like tearing the grid apart, you know. And what we're trying to do is to make this problem simple by um, detaching these kind of peaky loads at the source. So EVs is one of the loads which we're tackling as of today. So for a public DC fast charger, we put a big battery, or almost like think of a tank of electrons, right at the source, so that when the
Okay.
EV comes and charges, we just take the energy from the tank, and the tank slowly refills from the electrical grid itself, so that any kind of like peaky loads are detached over there. Now, when more and more of these tanks are built in every neighborhood, then we can have these neighborhoods doing their own solar panels, their own windmill, and their own EV chargers as well. So this idea is about changing the fundamental architecture of electrical grid from this one-way highway to a bi-directional, all-way moving small highways, which are pretty robust and very different from the centralized architecture today.
I understand. Thank you. And thank you for keeping it simple, because I could follow along. So from your
I'm not sure if I kept it simple, but okay.
simple enough for me to understand anyway. So I'm sure I'm the base level of knowledge that means everyone else could follow on. So thanks for explaining that. So therefore, I suppose my second follow-up question is: so do you, based upon that, you rely on others in the ecosystem developing and evolving as well, rather than being a sort of standalone solution? You're working in conjunction with what others are doing to ultimately decentralize the power sources.
For sure, yes. There is many companies, many startups, many ideas in the ecosystem which will be required for this transition. There are companies which are doing the API, or the communication protocol, to integrate different types of assets. So, for example, your cooktop could have its own battery or can turn it on and off. Of course, the HVAC always has this feature as well, in which a utility could directly control that or reduce the consumption. You have bidirectional dispatch of the home battery, a 20 kilowatt hour battery, which Tesla is doing as well. So there's different types of solutions, both hardware as well as software, which are basically coming together to create this distributed grid. Now, if you ask me how does the revenue change, or how these ideas will play with the existing utility, that is still to be figured out. Um, in the US alone, it's last year around 4 trillion megawatt hours of energy was sold, right? At 13 cents, which is more than 500 billions in revenue. Now, um, operating margins for the electrical utilities were only like less than 20%, 18%, something like that. Now they're only making that much revenue. Now that much profits, right? Operation profits. Now these startups can help them to have their margins higher, because they probably would not have to spend so much money on distribution upgrades, transmission upgrades, even maintenance. The operation margin could grow, and this operation margin could go to these startups as well, unless the fundamental change in the whole utility business happens. I hope it's sooner.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so I hope that answers your question. But yeah,
Yeah.
there is many businesses to play
I
here.
understand. So in terms of your customers that you would be selling your solution to, who would that be?
Um, so your question is that who do we sell to right now, or in the long term, who will
Well,
sell to?
both. Yeah. Tell me both right now, and then what's the pathway for the future?
So currently we are incredibly focused on the EV charging problem, the public EV charging problem, right? So The use cases for that, the best locations for EV charging, the type of EV charging which we're building, which is very, very fast, right? The fastest in the world today for vehicles, even like almost at par with the flash charging, which BYD talked about in the last WNEF, the World Economic Forum, WEF. So it's 400 kilowatts. It can charge up according 12 minutes. That is stop and go. So the best fit is a gas station, right? So the gas stations are our biggest, like the favorite segments right now. We drop the unit at a gas station, we hook it up to existing power source, and then do very fast charging. And gas stations, just like by common logic, you'd assume, are deployed in dense urban locations. They are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. So you will get one or two or even more gas stations at every feeder or a substation, electrical substation. So you are able to like basically have a critical mass of these units at every location. So it just works out beautifully that currently gas station owners are our segments. We are leasing these units out to them or working over a revenue share model. But going on from there, we'll have to introduce parallel products to be able to like capture more of the market share.
I see. Okay, so you lease the hardware to them, and then the actual usage of the energy is then shared between you and the gas station.
We like to put our own electrical meter now
Okay.
because it's either we take over the electrical meter and sell the electricity to the gas station owner, which they can buy from us. Not all states will like us doing that. And the utility billing, as you know, it's is also quantum science. It's a joke, but like you cannot like settle your electrical bills with a gas station owner by just doing your own calculations, because it's this problem is growing. It's becoming a more political issue on how electrical bills are growing and stuff, and we don't want to take that risk. So they settle with their own electrical utilities, and we have our own bill, and we settle with the utilities themselves. That's the key idea. But all the revenue which is generated both by selling EV charging as well as selling energy back to the grid, that is participating in utility programs, with split with the gas station owner.
I see. Makes sense. Okay. And then as you grow, and we can come on to this perhaps, but I know you're gearing up for your Series A to scale the team and to develop further. What's the sort of time frame for that, and then what would that funding be used for?
So the idea is that we start socializing our Series A in the next month or so. We have some high profile pitch events where we're gonna start talking about our Series A, what's our goals, and we do have enough orders to fulfill, which a Series A will help us accelerate on and probably win more orders. So we potentially will be able to like wrap this up like early quarter three, in during the September timeframe, I would say. And the idea for the Series A is to be able to like build, like go past that 100 unit number, because we're getting up for this 100 unit number as a part of the initial Series A. And we reached to a kind of a bootstrap growth stage in which we are able to like just we're trying to raise Series A in a way that we don't need a Series B ever. But if we're really growing, then we probably do a Series B just to rapidly make our expansion.
Sure. And understand, in terms of fulfilling your orders and growth, but also coming back to the point around culture, talent, and people are clearly going to be a part of that journey. So going back to that original point around the culture that you're creating, clearly as co-founders, there's a certain culture that you've worked to and that you've had. But I suppose when you actually start to bring on employees, it will become different. What do you think are some of the traits that you will be looking for in these new hires, and what's important to you when you're considering bringing people into a small team, and therefore every seat being so such a big part of the company culture?
Yeah, it's a very hard problem. I think Mr. Musk said once that um, the whole trajectory of a company is kind of the vector sum of all the people in it, you know. So you can imagine that if there's a small team, then each person will have an outsized impact on the overall company culture. So um, increasingly, every new hire is going to be less important than the previous one, but the early hires are incredibly important. So what I generally look for, or what I get motivated for, is somebody who has got this desire that they want to um, just make a change, you know, just like doing something impactful. Do they get excited about bringing a change, you know? And when we schedule an interview, I send over the culture document, which I have, and also give them a loose job description. I ask them to fill the job description themselves as well. That what is the ideal thing? You know, this is something which you're looking for, but can you make your dream job description as well? And that kind of like helps us um, like drive the conversation over there. And I generally there are two interviews minimum. One of them with their direct bosses as well. And what I want to see is there a culture fit, you know, between those two. That's one of the most important thing. Um, so yeah, that is what I'll say. I think asking targeted questions is almost like dumb, you know. Um, I think it's just you want to check for acumen. If somebody's like eager to learn, is open to learning, and how smart they are, as
Yeah.
compared to just like asking them a question, "Do you know this?" That I don't think that makes sense. So yeah, these will be top things for me. You know, like the culture fit with their boss and
Sure.
the
And
drive.
and actually whenever I hear a client talk to me about culture fit, I always pause and ask a few follow-up questions. I'm going to do the same with you if I may. Um, Culture fit I find is, is one side of the angle, but the other part that I think actually increasingly we're hearing more about is culture add. So, do you want somebody who is fitting in and the same as everybody else, or do you want someone who's going to take it to the next level? And actually, the intention before hiring around that can make a big impact to what the culture can become and the positive place you want it to be, not obviously a positive place. So, how do you avoid the um, yeah, how do you avoid the concept of hiring everybody who is similar to who you already have? Or is that actually a good thing in an early stage startup because you need to all be on the same page? What's your perspective on that?
I think there are always some values which we aspire to, you know. For example, people who are fit, they're active in, they like to probably go to hikes or do something over the weekend, you know. So we ask these questions. So, or let's say even PlayStation, to be honest, like for a technical team. Um, that's a wonderful point which you bring up. Generally, when I am interviewing somebody, I also have some ideas of culture add, so to speak, on what are the things which I want this team to like go towards, you know, and are they excited about that? So they do ask this question on what are they excited about, and at times some people will come up and say things that they want to do something like that, which we would like to be a value add in um, in that role specifically. So yeah, that's a wonderful point. I don't think I've been super mindful, but when you mentioned that, there are always some things to think about, that what exactly they're gonna add to the table,
Mm,
especially around fitness and like just mental health of the people, I would say. Yeah.
sure. And are you in office culture 5 days a week, or what's your structure of remote working? If people are locally based, and I know you have these other satellites as well.
So yeah, mechanical team, they come every day at work, um, and even the new software folks as well. Whoever has joined the company in the last 1 year, they come every day. Mhm. That's one of the requisites which we put, because like me and Nelio, my co-founder, CTO, we come every day to work. Um, but some people who have been with us since COVID time, and even Vince, my COO, they come twice a week. It's a crazy commute for them. Bay Area commute can be tough. So at times driving 2 hours to work, as in like 1 hour to come and 1 hour to leave. That's kind of like taking away from the productive time. So yeah, generally 2 days a week for everyone, and then the mechanical team and the hardware design team, and new hires who are making a choice.
Mhm.
uh, they come every day.
They come in, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I was just interested to know how you did that. But back to your the sort of the interview approach and what you're thinking about. Something you didn't mention actually that was quite profound to me was that you didn't actually mention at all in that anything around the sort of technical skill set. You mentioned acumen, you mentioned culture, but you didn't mention the technical skills. How focused or fixed are you on, for some of these roles, which will be obviously very technical? Do you do technical tests? Do you how do you test the actual understanding of the tech part of the role, or if you don't, how do you satisfy yourself with that?
So most of the people who we are bringing on right now in the company are really young folks. They are either straight out of school, or this is their second job after 1-2 years of working. So these guys do not have like direct technical experience in doing something, which something cutting edge which we're doing here. So and also what we're doing here has not been done before, like a lot of times. For example, like the cutting edge certification needed for both battery and EV charger safety, the type of grounding issues which we see. We need two grounds. I have tried to hire experts who have worked in the
Mm.
industry for the longest time, and they don't know what's going on. So it's we are the experts here of the cutting edge tech which we're building, and what we want and test for is the appetite to learn new things, and just the raw smartness which we have, which they have. So the raw smartness test is kind of easy. The type of school which they're going, looking at what are the things which they've done in the past, and just during those interview processes, you won't ask them a dumb question about like, do you know what a UL 9540 certification is? Because that's like easily available on your fingertips. It's just, how do you approach a certification? Can you just think about like what exactly happens to a cell when it's burning? That would be a much better question to ask. So I would say the technical acumen is a much better test, as compared to just technical like knowledge per se, and that's what we have been doing so far. And generally, if it's not a fit, if we hire somebody, which has happened very few times, then we let them go, after 6 to 8 months time.
Sure. Yeah. Understand. And it's so crucial at those early stages to not hold on to, bad hires or double down on them, because you need to make sure you're getting the right people in. And on the flip side, whilst of course any organization wants to hire the top talent, there's also must be an appreciation and an understanding that you may not always have access to the best talent, or if you do have access to them, you're competing with other more established brands or organizations that are doing different things. So you obviously made the move to start your own thing, having been in larger corporates. What's your pitch to individuals, maybe that are listening to this or that are thinking about moving to a startup or scale up? Why should they join ElectricFish, and how do you paint that picture and vision for them?
We have great stock options. We definitely promote this ownership mindset in the company, even from technicians to engineer who join the company. We want them to have a part of the shared success. So the stock options are profound. We generally don't do crazy cliff beaters or anything. You'll start owning your stock really quickly. Second is also the quality of work. We are so early. We have very little repetitive work. Okay, we are always doing new things. It's generally fun. I think you just keep seeing curveballs. So it's going to be at least 3 4 years before we are really starting to do so much repetitive work that gets boring. And at that point of time, we'll bring those industry veteran folks who really thrive in just doing the repetitive things and making sure that we can get quality and like quantitative um, like improvements in those repeating processes, right? But the quality of work right now is very exciting, very fun. I enjoy that as well. And I'll say that the team is great. You'll enjoy working with us. We have fun.
Mm.
Generally, we celebrate each other birthdays. And then we once in a while we'll do team outing events, which is very competitive and very fun. And then finally, we will make sure that everybody here is like mission driven. You will feel for the mission. What we're trying to do here. We are really trying to change how electricity moves, and it's a big change after 100 years.
I'm
So
sure.
um, yeah, it's generally very exciting to be here.
And how often do you find yourself giving that pitch to individuals at final stages to try to get them over the line? Or by that point, when they're meeting you, are they already convinced of that mission and um, pretty much on board?
Well, so it's going to change very very quickly after our Series A, in which we are kind of like hitting those um, uh, above market pay. But so far we have been at market or just below market pay as well because of we are doing we are a hardware company based in the Bay, at the heart of the Bay.
Mm.
So we have to be very very cash efficient. So I think generally it's a great filter. People only take a pay cut. Smart people only take a pay cut if they really feel for the mission.
Sure.
So I haven't the pitch which I just made right now, I didn't have to make that explicitly. When when we share the deck or when I talk about the company itself, I think the passion already goes through, and people who feel excited about what we're trying to do here are the ones who can like go forward with the process. So I don't have to explicitly make this pitch and
Yes, yeah,
try to convince them. They're convinced already. They have taken the pill.
sure.
But I think increasingly as we grow, it'll become more important, and the job will become tough because now the pay is great. Now we have to filter for people who are they actually coming in for the mission, or is it just the pay right
And
now? So the things will become harder, but so far it's been mission driven people.
good. Yeah, great. And then closing this part of the conversation, then thinking ahead. You've already told me a bit about the journey after Series A, but I'm interested in your own um, uh, role and how that will change and evolve as time goes on. As you think ahead to what post Series A is going to look like and the team you're going to recruit, how do you gear yourself up for the change in role that you're going to need to go through to continue to lead the business in the right fashion? And do you spend much time thinking about what that's going to be, or is it more dealing with the issues that are ahead of you over the next quarter, um, or can you think longer term?
To I would say the motivation for me to do this, to do electric fish, why it becomes let's say a cash cow or a profit making machine, um, because we are extracting profits even in the early units, right? So I know that this will become a really solid business. Um, I think what will motivate me is that are we staying true to the vision, right? Um, are we going to really make a million of these units and make chains are great, and the type of investors which you bring on or the type of people which you bring on, and are we really able to like realize that vision is what excites me. So um I would say that the only thing which I need to like keep an eye out on is elasticity of an entrepreneur, which kind of like comes from this quote which Jeff Bezos said once. It's about um, you need to a great founder know must be rigid enough with their beliefs. What they're trying to build that makes sense. This is what we need to build for
Mm.
sure, and then understanding when exactly they need to make a pivot or make a change, a tiny bit of change in terms of how they're approaching uh, that specific issue. It could be a simple thing in terms of a small feature, or it could be a massive go-to-market change as well, right? So I, as long as I can demonstrate that elasticity as we grow and revenues like to 10x next year, that's kind of what's happening, and we grow more and more people. I think that will be the test of time, basically, um, um, if I can take the company to the next level which it needs to grow to, because it's definitely going there. That's
Yes.
for sure. Yeah.
And you have your three co-founders beneath you that I'm sure will keep you on your toes to make sure you are doing that and hold you to account if you're not.
I think that's one of the key point to mention. That is, I was reading this venture capital book as well, and I think there's always been these two kind of things about this charismatic, crazy entrepreneur, which is basically only decision maker, just like not listen to anybody. Like they have their investors in control, the business is doing crazy, and then they're just crazy megalomania which gets involved, which uh, reaches to a bust like WeWork, and which is just like shoving with money, everything is going well until it just like comes crashing down, right? um, or at times there is this accountability in which the decision is being made by some top people as compared to somebody specifically, right? So we're working together. We're all working together. In some, even if it's a solo founder, at times they have bought in some really good VCs who are working together, right? So it's a group of people. There needs to be accountability. I think power is incredibly corrupting, and if it's only one person, generally they would get corrupted. So accountability is definitely necessary. A group is necessary, which makes decisions, but also at times you see the examples that a single person can go much faster
Mm.
as well. But there are very small examples of that, right? Like Mr. Elon is like that. He's able to like attract these kind of crazy people, but he's the one who's like going just this scale by himself. So they're both examples to be made, but the single examples are less as compared to the group examples are more. And I really believe in that. We're doing this together. I'm trying to like make a group of people who are accountable to each other and making decisions together, if you will.
Sure, I understand. Yeah, thank you for explaining that and your kind of philosophy around it. That's really helpful. So I've got some quick fire questions for you, if you don't mind, and then we'll wrap this up. So, if you're thinking about your career, either as a technical engineer or as a founder and a leader now, what's the best piece of advice that you believe you've ever received?
I think I already mentioned that. Um, it's I think you don't take things personally. If you get a rejection, or anything, rejection from even sales investors, or something falls apart. I think it's just don't take it on yourself. I think at times taking on yourself is good because you can build yourself up and stuff, but like most of the times don't like to take things personally. And I'll repeat Mr. Elon Musk again. This in continuation of this is that um, if you really need external motivation, you probably would not be a great entrepreneur. I think the motivation should be intrinsic, and
Yeah,
you should be able to like reject the rejections, not taking them personally.
for sure. Um, Two cities, Detroit, or well, let's say Detroit or the Bay Area. What's your preference and why?
I'm gonna do both, of course. Detroit has the history, the romance, and the Silicon Valley has the pace and the capital, and that risky capital. So maybe Silicon Valley is the winter home, and Michigan in summers, something like that.
Sure. What do you think is the most common misconception about the EV fast charging market right now?
Yeah, people still think that the EV technology or the charging technology itself is still in the past. Charging an EV is very different than fueling a gasoline. That's not the case anymore. Things have changed and they're going to change for better, even better. So whether you drive, electric car. If you choose the right one, it's going to be exactly the same as a gasoline vehicle.
It sounds like you're a bit of a student of the game and the business world. What's your favorite book or podcast that's influenced your leadership?
There's been many, but one specific one is the No Rules Rules by Reed Hastings. Um, Great read on culture. I haven't even read the final chapters yet because I'm not there yet. We're not that
Okay.
big. So I'm reading chapters by chapters, I'm like, this is the stage which I'm in. But I really love that book.
Yeah, that's probably a better idea. I read it prior to setting up GS2. I had all these great ideas, and then 2 months in, you're smacked in the face with business problems, and it kind of goes out the window. So I think you've got a better way of doing it. But yeah, I would agree. It's a great book. If you weren't in climate technology, which industry would you be in, and why?
I still want to go there, propulsion systems, but for space, probably. I think there's so much room of innovation. We still use primitive technology of burning fuel to project mass, go to rockets in space. I think it needs to be a better way. So, space propulsion will be a cool industry to work in.
For sure, yeah, absolutely, definitely. I've got my eye on that as well. And what's one habit that's helps you start your day?
The best days will be 20 minutes of yoga or 30 minutes of yoga, something like that, and a freshly squeezed orange juice. That seems like a good day. We generally don't get those 30 minutes every day because we're just getting started on meetings. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have facilities at the office for that, or is that a home thing?
At home,
Yeah.
at offices, it's coffee, right? We've got
Yeah,
good coffee at offices. Yeah.
sure. Yeah, lots of coffee. And then if you could help me finish this sentence, the future of energy storage is.
Decentralized and distributed.
Thank you very much. I'm always interested to talk to my guests about who else they would recommend or people that they know of in the industry that they think have a great story to tell. If you could recommend one leader from your network or somebody that you've come across that you think would be a possible guest for our next series, who would it be and why?
I would say Tia and Nate from It's Electric. Um, they are building this level 2 EV charging in cities.
Okay.
Engineering solution to stop the theft of cables of level 2 charging and making it easier to deploy. So they're very complementary technology to us. So that's why I recommend them.
Sure.
There are a few others as well, but you just asked for one. So
Yeah, for sure. What was them? What was their company called?
it's called It's Electric.
It's Electric. Okay, I'll
They're
try that.
based
And
in
go
New
on.
York.
I'll give you one more then, because I'm always interested in hearing about good people.
Yeah, I think Apur Bhargava from WeaveGrid is also a great guy. They're more kind of like software side in which they are building an engine which can like dispatch electric vehicles into the grid. So these are kind of like two aspects of us, like energy storage, how you dispatch it, and they're using energy storage in the EVs to be dispatched to the grid. So yeah, Apurv might be a great person for you to talk to.
Right. Thank you. I'll definitely check them both out. And AK, to finish then, it seems very clear to me that you are very mission and purpose driven. When you come to the end of your career and you step back, what do you think will be some of the key tangible goals that you will have delivered that would let you know that you've left the world better than you found it?
I think it's a little bit vain, to be honest, to say that, but replacing Mr. Nikola Tesla as the fathers or parents of the modern electrical grid, it was back in 1900s when the fundamentals of the AC grid were put down, and then the AC grid is changing. Now it needs to be decentralized, and if we can really usher this new architecture, then maybe the new parents, But just for it's vain because saying that you became the parents is vain, but I think the fundamental change and how much lives which we can like affect, we can literally touch everyone. I don't think it's everybody gets that opportunity to build a technology which can touch every life on the planet, so, and even future planets. If you're starting to build an electrical grid on Mars, I think the decentralization will be the way to build it. We're not going to build coal plants over there, or maybe we'll do nuclear plants, but like, I think solar energy is available in abundance, so let's just do decentralized grid. So I think that is why I would say that it's a fundamentally new change we should bring to the world.
For sure. Well, I wouldn't bet against you. It sounds like you're very driven to make that happen, and I'm going to love to keep checking in on the progress and seeing how it all goes. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been great to share your story, your journey so far, what's to come, and also your philosophy around leadership and growing your company. I'm really excited to see how you get on. Definitely be cheering you on from the sidelines, and who knows, maybe one day helping you find those superstars that can take you to the next level. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to hearing from you soon.
Thank you for having me, Josh. It was fun.
Great. Thanks so much. Check in soon. All the best.
See you.
Anurag's journey highlights exactly what happens when deep technical expertise meets adaptable leadership. What stood out to me was his conscious effort to evolve and adapt from a technical mechanical engineer into a broader commercial leader. And he understands that building an incredible product is only half of the battle. The rest comes down to communicating that value clearly and trusting your team to handle some of the technical details. By designing a culture which has borrowed the best parts of all the different cultures he's been a part of and using that as the platform to build from, it's allowed him to create an organization and a culture where innovation thrives and excels. ElectricFish is tackling a critical part of our overall electrical grid, and Anurag proves that building hard things is equally reliant on building an exceptional and resilient team. And when you get that right, added with the culture, that's truly how you leave things better than you found it. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and got value from it. If you like what Anurag and the team are doing at ElectricFish and like to connect with them, then please do so through our show notes. And also, if you've enjoyed the episode, please share it with a colleague, a friend, or subscribe for the next episode. And that's how we can really amplify our message and push it further. So thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, take care.